Ancient Greece owes as much to modern civilization as ancient Rome. Democracy, drama, classical art, and many other things that we take for granted came from ancient Greece. However, one of the most important aspects of Greek culture that has influenced Western civilization is, without a doubt, their philosophy. Many other lists of ancient Greece facts can attest to this. The Greeks believed that the human mind was capable of comprehending all knowledge. They were so into philosophy that three of the world's most famous philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, were born in Greece. Furthermore, many ideas about government emerged in ancient Greece. Indeed, in his funeral oration to the Athenians around 430 BC, Greek statesman Pericles mentions democratic government. In his speech, he discussed a powerful type of government in which its most distinguished citizens have the authority to make political decisions. Isn't that the definition of democracy? The majority of buildings in Washington, D.C., the U.S. Capitol, also have Greek influences. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., for example, was inspired by the famous Greek structure the Parthenon. Many specific aspects of this and other Greek structures have undoubtedly influenced Western civilization. With these 10 ancient Greece facts, you can learn even more about this illustrious ancestor of contemporary civilization. 1. The origin of the country's name. Not everyone is aware that ancient Greece was not given its name by its citizens. The Greeks referred to themselves as Hellenes and their country as Hellas or Hellada, until the Romans coined the term Greece, which comes from the Latin phrase Graecia, or land of the Greeks. The nation was known officially as the Hellenic Republic. 2. The ancient Greeks may have made the first computer in history. Particularly, the Antikythera mechanism, which dates around 80 BC, was found on the same named island. It was constructed to standards similar to those of the 18th century and has differential gears, which were not created in Europe until that century. The device was employed by the Greeks to compute the movements of the planets, according to scientists who have since studied its functioning. They were able to forecast eclipses thanks to this and their positions in the night sky at various periods. Even though the machine was incorrect compared to contemporary astronomical computers, scientists were able to recreate it, demonstrating the Greeks' technical prowess. The National Archaeological Museum in Athens currently has one of those copies adjacent to the original mechanism. 3. The Greeks had many different gods. Of those, 12 became the most important. They're the Olympians, and they remain well known today, thanks to popular culture. Zeus led them as the king of the gods, and as the god of thunder and the sky. He also had a wife, Hera, who had power over marriages and the family. Zeus had two brothers, Poseidon, the sea god, and Hades, the god of the dead. Ares stood as the god of war, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and the twins Apollo and Artemis as the god and goddess of the sun and moon, respectively. Demeter became the goddess of the harvest and the seasons, while Aphrodite ruled over love. Hermes became the messenger of the gods, while Zeus and Hera's son Hephaestus ruled over the forge and craftsmanship. 4. The very first marathon. Many people are already familiar with the background of the Olympic Games, which were first held at Olympia to amuse the populace and have since evolved into a tradition that continues in the present era. But did you know that the inspiration for the first marathon was not merely for the sake of crowd entertainment? In truth, a soldier from the nearby marathon battlefield by the name of Phidippides raced 26 miles from the city to Athens to report the outcome of the marathon battle. After arriving, he shouted Nike, or victory, before falling and passing away from exhaustion and severe dehydration. His sacrifice was noteworthy, starting the custom of the races that is still observed today. 5. The invention of the alarm clock. The alarm clock is still a highly useful tool, despite the fact that some people see this specific invention as the scourge of their existence. One of the earliest iterations of the alarm clock, designed by the Hellenistic engineer Ctesippus, utilized a complex method of dropping tiny stones into a gong in order to produce a loud sound. The sound would play at preset intervals to remind individuals of events occurring during the day or to wake them awake. 6. Handshakes originated in ancient Greece. The first representation of a handshake can be seen on an archaeological relief from the first half of the 5th century BC, which features Athena, the goddess of war in Greek mythology, shaking hands with Hera, the wife of Zeus and goddess of marriage. It served as a sign of amity, demonstrating that both parties had put their weapons down and were collaborating. Handshakes are now a typical practice everywhere in the globe since they evolved into a courteous greeting gesture over time. 7. Alexander the Great led Greeks all the way across Asia to as far away as India. At first, the Greeks were reluctant to support Alexander, considering him to be a young king without a parent to guard him. Thebes spearheaded the insurrection, but Alexander eventually routed their army and destroyed Thebes as retaliation. However, he spared the temples and the residence of the renowned poet Pindar. The Greeks, who were terrified but believed Alexander was kind, yielded and sent 10,000 men on Alexander's campaigns with the 30,000 Macedonians. In addition to participating in all of Alexander's significant engagements, those 10,000 men accompanied the Macedonians in their infamous revolt in India. Together, they compelled Alexander to abandon his plans to conquer the Indians and begin his return march. 8. Ancient Greece struggled with agriculture. Greeks avoided cultivating wheat since the rocky topography made for subpar farming land at best. Instead, they produced barley, which was less nutritive than wheat but easier to grow and yielded more grain. The greatest source of riches for Greek landowners, however, came from the plantations of olive trees, which thrived in Greece's favorable climate. Additionally, grapes thrived in Greece, where they were used to make wine and exported as far as Egypt. 9. The Greeks placed a high value on education. Ironically, there were no public schools in Greece, with the exception of Sparta, which once more proved to be an exception. At the age of 7, boys and girls were sent to different barracks where they both taught how to read, write, count, and do arithmetic. While girls received instruction in dancing, music, and poetry, boys also received training to become warriors. Due to this, Spartan women were once more among the most privileged and well-educated in all of ancient Greece. Families frequently employed an educated slave to tutor their children in neighboring city-states. Boys and girls both learned how to read, write, and perform math, but girls often did not continue their education. Older boys from wealthy households attended elite schools where they studied literature and music. To keep them in shape for when their city called them up as citizen soldiers, they also received an education in athletics. 10. They also studied astronomy. In the 4th century BC, 2 Greeks named Eudoxus and Callidus used their observations of the sky to create the first three-dimensional models of the solar system. Furthermore, Heraclides Ponticus arrived at the day-night cycle by using a similar strategy to prove that the Earth spun about its axis. Aristarchus first proposed the idea that the Earth and other planets orbited the Sun rather than the other way around in the 3rd century BC. Archimedes carried on Aristarchus' research centuries later and added to it with his own discoveries.